My wife, Sarah, and we bought our first house 3 years ago. It was everything we'd worked for. We weren't wealthy by any stretch, but we'd saved every penny, lived in a tiny apartment, and finally got a mortgage on a new build in one of those developments that spring up in the middle of nowhere. This one was in the high desert of Utah, about 45 minutes outside of St. George. The development was called Crimson Ridge, which sounded majestic. In reality, it was just a few paved streets and a dozen houses carved into a vast, empty expanse of red rock and scrub brush. Ours was the model home, which meant it was the first one built and the last one sold. It was on the edge of the development, the very last house on a street, called Juniper Court. Across from us, there was nothing. Just an empty, graded lot, flat and covered in red dust, waiting for a house that hadn't been sold yet. Beyond that, the desert. Miles and miles of it. For the first few months, it was perfect. The silence was what we loved most. We'd sit on our new patio, drink a beer, and watch the sun set. We had a golden retriever, Buster, who had the run of the fenced-in backyard. It was the American dream, or at least our version of it. The development was so new, we didn't really have neighbors. The closest occupied house was 2 streets over. So when I saw him for the first time, it was jarring. I was taking the trash out one Tuesday night, and I just felt, that feeling of being watched. I looked across the street to the empty lot, and there was a man just standing there. He was gaunt, impossibly thin, wearing clothes that were little more than filthy rags. He was just standing, facing our house. I'm not a monster. My first thought was that he was homeless. Sarah, who has a heart bigger than this entire state, immediately went to the pantry. Mark, he probably just needs some food. She put together a bag with some water bottles, granola bars, and a can of chili. I told her I'd take it over. I walked across the street, holding the bag. "Hey there," I called out. "You okay?" He didn't move. He didn't even look at me. Not really. He just kept his head pointed at my house. I got closer, maybe 20 feet away. "Hey, man. We saw you. You can't really, camp out here. It's private property. But here." I held out the bag. He turned his head, slowly. It was, I don't know how to describe the sound, but it was like dry leaves scraping on concrete. His neck seemed to click. And his eyes, they were wrong. They were milky, filmed over, like he had cataracts, but they were also sharp. They darted from my face to the bag, then back to my house. He didn't say a word. He just stared. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the desert night. I just set the bag down on the ground. "Here you go. Take care." I walked backward, all the way back to my driveway, and hurried inside. I told Sarah he was just a little out of it, and that he took the food. I lied. I didn't want her to worry. The next morning, the bag was still there, untouched. But the man was gone. A week went by. We didn't see him. I figured he'd moved on. Then Sarah woke me up. It was maybe 3 a.m. "Mark," she whispered, her voice tight with fear. "He's back. Look." I crept to our bedroom window, the one that faced the street. And there he was, in the exact same spot, standing, staring. Buster was going crazy in the backyard, barking and howling, a sound of pure panic I'd never heard from him. "This is ridiculous," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. "I'm calling the cops." So I did. A patrol car rolled through about 30 minutes later. By the time they arrived, he was gone. The officer was polite, but you could tell he thought we were wasting his time. "Sir, it's a transient. They move around. There's not much we can do unless he's threatening you or trespassing. He shone his spotlight on the empty lot. See? Nothing there. He's probably a mile into the desert by now, but he wasn't. He was just smarter than we thought. He stopped appearing in the open. But we knew he was there. We'd find things. Little strange structures built on the lot. Piles of rocks stacked in impossible ways. And bones. At first, I thought they were rabbit bones, maybe a coyote. But they were arranged, stuck into the dirt in patterns, like little, tiny, gruesome fences. Then, Buster started getting sick. He'd sit by the back door, whining, his fur bristling, staring at the fence. He stopped eating. We took him to the vet. The vet was baffled. He's perfectly healthy, Mark, just stressed. One morning, I was leaving for work, and I saw something on the hood of my truck. Greasy, filthy handprints. But they weren't, right? The fingers were too long. The palms were too narrow. It looked like someone had dipped their hands in motor oil and just held onto my car. Like they were petting it. I scrubbed them off, my stomach churning before Sarah could see. The worst part was the watching. We never saw him, but we knew he was watching. I'd be in the kitchen, and the hair on my arms would stand up. I'd look out the window, and I'd just catch a flicker of movement out on the lot, a shadow darting behind a pile of construction debris. This went on for a month. We were prisoners in our own home. We stopped sitting on the patio. We kept the blinds closed. Buster was a nervous wreck, living in our bedroom. And then Buster disappeared. It was a Saturday. I'd let him into the backyard, just like always. The fence was 6 feet high, solid wood. The gate was locked. I went to make coffee, was inside for maybe 10 minutes. When I went to let him back in, he was gone. I don't need to tell you the panic. We tore that backyard apart. We searched the entire neighborhood, what little of it there was. We drove the desert roads, calling his name until our throats were raw. Sarah was incoherent with grief. I, on the other hand, felt a cold, white-hot rage. I knew who took him. I grabbed the heaviest flashlight I owned and a shovel from the garage, and I stormed across the street to that empty lot. It was dusk. "I know you're here, you bastard," I screamed. "You give him back." I started kicking over his little rock piles, smashing his bone circles. I was frantic, just destroying everything. And in the center of the lot, I found it. It was a nest, a hollowed-out patch of dirt, hidden by some tumbleweeds. And inside was Buster's collar. It was just placed there, neatly, on top of a pile of something. It was leathery and dry, and it looked like skin, like huge, peeling sheets of sunburned skin. And next to it, folded, was a set of human clothes, a fluorescent yellow surveyor's vest and a pair of dirty work boots. I ran. I dropped the shovel and I ran back to my house, locked the door, and called the police again. This time, they took it seriously. 2 cars. They searched the lot. They found the nest. They collected the skin-like stuff, the vest, the collar. An officer, a woman this time, spoke to me. "Sir," she said, her face grim, We've had a missing persons report from this development. A surveyor, about 6 months ago. Before you moved in, my blood went cold. This vest, it matches the description. We're going to treat this as we're going to investigate." They found nothing else. No man, no dog. They took our report and they left. For a week, there was nothing. A dead, awful, grieving silence. The man was gone. The lot was empty. We were devastated about Buster, but there was a small, guilty part of me that was just relieved. Relieved that the terror was over. I was wrong. It wasn't over. It was just changing. It was a Wednesday night. We were in bed. Sarah was crying softly, which she did most nights. And then we heard it. A whimper. A soft, sad whimper coming from the backyard. Sarah sat bolt upright. "Mark, did you hear that?" I had. Whine. Whimper. It was Buster. It was Buster's sound. Buster. Sarah screamed, flying out of bed. "He's back. He's hurt." She was halfway down the stairs before I could even move. My heart was pounding, but something was wrong. That cold dread was back, pooling in my stomach. It sounded like Buster, but it was too perfect, too rhythmic. Whine, whimper, scratch. I ran to the bedroom window, the one that overlooked the backyard. I looked down, and I saw him, the man from the lot. He was in our backyard. The gate was open. He was crouched on all fours on our patio, right by the sliding glass door. He was making the sounds. He was throwing his head back, and from his throat, this perfect, heartbreaking imitation of our dog's whimper was coming out. Whine, whimper, scratch. He was dragging his long yellow fingernails against the glass. "Sarah, nitrogen monoxide. Don't open the door." I roared. I heard her stop just as she reached the door. "Mark, what?" "He's right there." I teased out him. "It's the man." I grabbed the heavy lamp from my knitstand and ran downstairs. As I got to the living room, I saw Sarah, her hand on the lock, staring in horror. And I saw it. It was still on all fours, but it had turned its head to look at us. Its milky eyes were fixed on Sarah, and it smiled. A wide, lipless grin, full of teeth that were too long and pointed. "Mark," Sarah whispered, backing away. "What is that?" In a fit of rage and terror, I hit the switch for the backyard floodlights. The light hit it, and it screamed. A sound that was nothing, not human, not animal. It was like 1,000 voices screaming at once. And it stood up. But it didn't stand up like a man. It unfurled. Its limbs, they popped. They elongated. It got taller and taller. And as it stood, the baggy, filthy clothes, they fell off. And the skin, the human skin, it split. It split down the chest, and this thing, this creature, stepped out of it. It was gray and thin, and at least 8 feet tall. Its arms were so long they nearly touched the ground. Its head was elongated, like a coyote's, but wrong. The man, the skin of the man, it slumped to the patio like a discarded coat. An empty, human-shaped puddle. And I saw the face. The dead, empty face of the surveyor from the missing persons report. My mind just broke. I couldn't process it. This thing, this Skinwalker, it had killed that surveyor months ago. It had been wearing him, living in him, hiding in him. And then it had taken Buster to learn his sounds. The creature took a step toward the glass. It was so tall, it had to crouch to look inside. It tilted its head, just like it did on the lot. It looked right at me, and then it spoke. It spoke in a voice I'd heard on that old news report. A friendly, booming voice. The voice of the original construction foreman for the development. The one the sales agent had told us about. The one who just walked off the job and vanished before the surveyor ever did. "Hey, folks," it said, its voice a perfect, cheerful imitation. "Going to be pouring the foundation today. Just need to check the, plumbing." It had collected them. Sarah screamed, a raw, terrified sound. The creature's head snapped to her. The foreman's voice vanished, and in its place was my voice. A perfect, calm, reassuring imitation of my voice. "Sarah, honey," it whispered, its black, dead eyes fixed on her. "It's okay. Open the door. I'm right here. Let me in." I grabbed Sarah and dragged her, kicking and screaming, away from the door, into the pantry, and locked it. We stayed in there all night. We heard it. We heard it circle the house. We heard it scratching at the siding. We heard it talking. It used the foreman's voice. It used the surveyor's voice. It used Buster's whimper. And over and over and over, it used my voice. "Sarah, let me in. Sarah, it's safe now. Sarah, I'm hurt. Please help me." When the sun finally came up, the sound stopped. We waited for 2 more hours before we came out. We called the police. When they got there, the backyard was empty. The skin of the surveyor was gone. The gate was closed. There was nothing. Just long, deep scratch marks in the wood of our back door. The police, they don't believe us. They think we're having a shared psychosis, brought on by the grief of losing our dog and the stress of finding that poor man's vest. We put the house on the market the next day. We're staying in a hotel. We lost everything. We are ruined. But we don't care. I'm telling this because we can't be the only ones. That development, they're still building houses. They're still selling the dream. But that thing is still out there. And the worst part, the part I can't, the part that keeps me awake, last night at the hotel, my cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered it, and all I heard was Buster's whimper, and then my own voice. "I see you," it whispered. "It's okay. Let me in." For about 8 months, back when I was 20, I worked the graveyard shift at a gas station. And when I say gas station, I don't mean some brightly lit 7-Eleven in a suburb. I mean a real middle-of-nowhere stop. It was called The Beacon, which was a sad joke because it was the only speck of light on a 60-mile stretch of dark highway in northern Arizona. The place was a tiny, fluorescent-lit box, surrounded on all sides by an ocean of pitch-black desert. My shift was 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. For 8 hours, I was the only human being for, as far as I knew, miles. My job was simple. Stay awake, run the register for the occasional trucker, and don't get robbed. I had a heavy-duty lock on the glass door, which my manager, a guy named Dale, told me to keep locked after midnight. "Don't open it for anyone," he'd said. "If they need gas, they can pay at the pump. If they need to use the restroom, they can hold it." Honestly, the job was just lonely and boring. The silence was the loudest thing, punctuated by the hum of the freezers and the ding-dong of the door sensor when a car pulled in, which was rare. Maybe 5 or 6 customers a night. My only regular, my only one, was an old Navajo man who lived on the reservation nearby. His name was Mr. Bege. He'd pull in every single night, without fail, at exactly 3:15 a.m. He drove an old, beat-up turquoise Ford truck. He'd come in, I'd unlock the door, and he'd buy the same 3 things. 1 large black coffee, a copy of the Navajo Hopi Observer, and a bag of Fritos. He was a comfort. A really kind, quiet man. His face was a roadmap of wrinkles, and he always wore a denim jacket, no matter how hot it was. He'd nod at me, pay an exact change, and sometimes he'd give me warnings. I thought he was just superstitious, you know, just an old-timer with his old ways. "You hear coyotes out there," he told me one night, gesturing to the darkness with his coffee. "But they sound like they're laughing. Like people. You turn your music up. You don't listen to them." Another night, he squinted at me and said, You see someone walking on the road, you don't look him in the eye. You stay in your box of light, Alex. The glass is good. The lock is good. Don't you ever invite them in? I'd just nod. Yes, sir, Mr. Begay. Will do. And I'd go back to reading my textbook, thinking it was just spooky local folklore. About 6 months into the job, the weird stuff started. It was small at first. I'd be stalking the Red Bulls, and I'd hear tapping on the glass. But it wasn't at the door. It was at the top of the 12-foot-high windows. Tap, tap, like someone was on the roof, dangling something down. I'd go out, nothing, just the wind. Then I heard the coyotes. Just like he said, it was maybe 2 a.m., a pack of them, yipping and howling. But then one of them laughed, a high-pitched human giggle. My blood ran cold. I remembered what Mr. Begay said. I cranked up the radio and tried to ignore it. A week later, I came in for my shift and found a thing by the front door. It was a little bundle of sticks, tied together with sinew and with a bunch of black feathers stuck in it. I thought it was just trash. Maybe some kids trying to be spooky. I swept it away and didn't think much of it. That was the night it happened. The night started like any other. 10 p.m., Dale leaves. 11 p.m., a trucker buys diesel. Midnight, I lock the door. 1 a.m., I restock the jerky. 2 a.m., I hear the coyotes again, but this time they sound angry. They're screaming, not yipping. Then 3:15 a.m. rolls around. I'm at the register, waiting. 3:15, 3:20, 3:30. No turquoise Ford truck. No Mr. Begay. This was the first time ever, he hadn't shown up. And I felt this new, sharp anxiety. The routine was broken. The one predictable, safe thing in my night was gone. I just felt alone and exposed. At 3:45 a.m., a car screeched into the parking lot, headlights off, sliding on the gravel. It wasn't a truck. It was an old, beat-up sedan. The driver's door flew open, and a woman stumbled out. She was wearing a t-shirt and jeans, no shoes. She sprinted to the glass door and started pounding on it. Please, oh God, please let me in. She screamed. Her voice was thin and reedy. He's chasing me. He's trying to kill me. Please. My heart was hammering. This was it. This was the don't open the door scenario. But this was a woman, terrified for her life. This was different. My car broke down back there. She shrieked, pointing into the blackness. This man, he pulled over and he tried to grab me. I ran. Please, he's right behind me. Let me in. I fumbled for the lock. My hand was shaking. I had to help her. I got to the door. She had her face pressed against the glass, her eyes wide with terror. And I stopped. My hand froze on the deadbolt. Something was wrong. Her eyes, in the bright fluorescent light, her pupils were gone. They were just black, all black. And they weren't reflecting the light. They seemed to be glowing, a faint reddish glow from within. And her hands, she was pounding on the glass. Her fingernails, they weren't normal. They were yellow and thick and curved, like claws. Please, she whimpered. I looked past her at her car, the sedan, and my stomach dropped. It wasn't a car. I mean, it was. But I knew that car. It was a rusted-out 90s model Toyota, and it had been abandoned in a ditch by mile marker 42 for months. I drove past it every day. It didn't have an engine. I slowly took my hand off the lock. I shook my head. No, her face changed. The terror evaporated. It was replaced by a cold, calculating fury. "Let me in," she snarled. The voice wasn't a woman's voice anymore. It was deep and guttural, and it seemed to be coming from 3 throats at once. She drew back her fist and punched the reinforced glass. The whole frame shuddered. I stumbled back. "You will let me in," it shrieked. And then it just stopped. It went still. It looked at me, its glowing eyes full of a hatred I can't even describe. It smiled. Then it dropped all fours and scampered. Like a spider, it moved with this impossible, unnatural speed and just vanished into the darkness. I don't know how long I stood there. I was a wreck. I was hyperventilating. I called Dale, my manager. He told me I was seeing things and was probably just tired. He said not to call the cops unless there was a real break-in. Said it would cost him money. I spent the rest of my shift cowering behind the counter, clutching a box cutter until the sun came up. I almost called in sick the next night. I almost quit. But I needed the money. I needed the job. I told myself it was a hallucination. Just sleep deprivation. I went in. 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight. I locked the door. My hands were shaking. Every sound made me jump. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., I just sat there, staring at the door. 3:15 a.m., the ding-dong of the car sensor went off. Headlights swept across the store. The turquoise Ford truck. I have never, ever felt such profound relief. I practically ran to the door and unlocked it. Mr. Begay walked in. "Mr. Begay," I said, my voice cracking. "Oh my God, where were you last night?" He looked at me, his kind eyes full of a deep sadness. "Family business," he said, his voice heavy. He went and got his coffee. He didn't get his newspaper or his Fritos. He just came back to the counter. "Mr. Begay," I said, and the whole story just poured out of me. The woman, the car, the eyes, the claws, the voice. I told him everything. He listened, his face hardening. He didn't look shocked. He didn't look like he thought I was crazy. He just nodded, his face growing darker and darker. When I was done, he was silent for a long time. He just stared into his coffee. "You did good, Alex," he finally said, his voice a low rumble. "You did good not to let it in." What was it?" I whispered. He looked up at me. "You call it Skinwalker. We call it Ye Nald Lucy. A sorcerer. A witch. One who has given up their humanity for power. They can wear the skins of animals. Or people." My mouth was dry. "But the woman," Mr. Begay's face crumpled. He looked broken. "That thing," he whispered, his voice cracking. "It's been hunting near my family's home. That woman, it was wearing my daughter's face." My heart stopped. "What? My Anna," he said, and he pulled out his wallet. He showed me a high school graduation photo of a beautiful, smiling Navajo girl. It was the woman. It was her. She went missing last week," Mr. Begay choked out. We found her car by mile marker 42. This thing had killed her. It took her, and now it's using her to hunt." I felt sick. I was going to throw up. He reached across the counter and patted my shoulder. His hand was warm. "You are a good boy, Alex. You're strong. You're safe in here, in your box of light. It can't get you if you don't invite it in." He paid for his coffee and turned to leave. "Mr. Begay," I called out. I'm so sorry." He just nodded and walked out into the night. I watched him get in his truck. I watched the turquoise truck pull onto the highway. I watched its red taillights disappear into the black. I was still shaking, but I felt validated. I wasn't crazy. It was real. And Mr. Begay, he knew. I don't know, just staring out the window. My mind was blank. And then, 10 seconds later, ding dong. The car sensor went off. Headlights swept across the store. A turquoise Ford truck. It pulled into the exact same parking spot. I didn't understand. Maybe he forgot something? The door rattled. I'd forgotten to relock it. The door creaked open, and Mr. Begay walked in. He was smiling, his normal, kind smile. He looked rested. He wasn't sad. He wasn't angry. He walked to the cooler, got a bag of Fritos. He went to the counter, grabbed a Navajo Hopi Observer. He went to the coffee machine and poured a large black coffee. He came to the register. I couldn't move. My brain, it wasn't working. Long night, huh? He said, cheerful. He put the items on the counter. Coffee, newspaper, and a bag of Fritos, please. I just stared at him. I stared at the truck outside. The same truck. I looked at the man who just left. And the man who was here. Son? Mr. Begay said, his smile faltering. He cocked his head. You look like you just saw a ghost. What's wrong? My blood, it had turned to ice. The man I just spoke to. The one who told me the story. The one who touched me. The one who confirmed everything. The one who told me about his daughter. That was the Skinwalker. That was the thing. It had been studying me for months. It had learned Mr. Begay. It had become him. It had come in and talked to me. And it knew that I knew. And this man, this real kind man standing in front of me, he had no idea. Alex, Mr. Begay said, his voice full of concern. Are you okay? I looked at him, and I looked at the glass door, and I looked at the lock, and I realized the thing it wasn't out there, trying to get in. It was in here, with me. I rang him up. I couldn't speak. My hands were shaking. I gave him his change. Have a good night, Mr. Begay, I whispered. You too, son, he said, his brow furrowed with worry. You get some rest. You don't look good. He left. I locked the door behind him. I quit the next day. I packed my car and I drove all the way back to Ohio. I didn't even tell Dale I was leaving. I still don't know. I don't know who or what I was talking to for all those months. Was it ever Mr. Begay? Or was it just learning me? And the other thing, the real Mr. Begay? I don't know what happened to him. I'm too scared to find out. I'm never going back to Arizona. My brother, Matt, and we were always close. Or we were. I'm Rick. I'm 19. Matt was 17. Every summer, our dad would drop us off in the Gila Wilderness in New Mexico. It was our tradition. Just the two of us for a long weekend. We'd hike, we'd fish, we'd build a fire. It was our thing. This last summer, Matt changed. He got distant. He started hanging out with a new crowd, and he started hanging out with him. A week before the trip, Matt asks, "Hey, can my new friend Jonah come with us?" I was annoyed. This was our trip. I don't know, man. It's kinda our thing, you know? Come on, Rick, he pleaded. You'll like him. He's cool. He's quiet. He's from the Mescalera Res, up by Ruidoso. He knows, like, everything about the woods. He's basically a survival expert. It'll be awesome. I caved. I'm the big brother. I'm supposed to be the cool one. Fine, I said. He can come. But he'd better not be a weirdo. That was an understatement. We picked him up. Jonah. He was, I don't know. He was off. Profoundly off. You know how some people are quiet? This was different. This was empty. He was about our age, maybe 18, 19. He had long, greasy black hair and these flat, black eyes. He looked at you, but not into you. Like you were a piece of furniture. He got in the truck, didn't say hi. He just nodded. The whole 2-hour drive to the trailhead, he didn't say a word. He just stared out the window, and he had this smell. It wasn't just B.O. It was acrid, like stale campfire smoke, and something coppery, metallic, like old pennies. I had the windows down, but the smell just hung in the cab. Matt, trying way too hard, was like, "So, Jonah, man, tell Rick about that time you tracked that deer." Jonah just smiled. A tiny, thin-lipped smile that didn't touch his eyes. "It was just a deer," he mumbled. We got to the trailhead and started the hike. And I gotta admit, Matt was right about one thing. The kid was unreal in the woods. He moved silently. I'd be clomping along, snapping twigs, and I'd look back, and he'd just be there. Right behind me. He'd just appear. We got to our usual spot by the river. We started setting up the tents. I saw Jonah watching a lizard on a rock. He was too still. Then, when he thought Matt and I weren't looking, his hand darted out. Faster than I thought was possible. He snatched it. I saw him just slowly pull its back legs off. He wasn't being a boy and being gross. He was studying it. He had this look of intense, cold curiosity on his face. "What the hell, man?" I yelled. He looked up, surprised I'd seen him. He just shrugged. "It's just a lizard." He dropped it, where it wriggled on the ground, and just walked away. Matt ran over. "Dude, what's your problem?" He's just different. That's how they are. It's a warrior thing or something." "A warrior thing?" I was furious. "He's a psycho, Matt. That's messed up." "Just chill out, Rick," Matt snapped. "You're embarrassing me. Just leave him alone." That night, things got worse. I'm a light sleeper when I'm camping. Around 2 o'clock or 3 a.m., I was woken up by the sound of a zipper. I was in a tent with Matt. Jonah was in his own smaller tent. I opened my eyes and saw Matt's sleeping bag. He was fast asleep. It was Jonah's tent zipper. I held my breath. I peeked through the mesh of our tent window. I saw Jonah's silhouette slip out of his tent. He was just in his jeans. No shirt, no shoes. He stood there for a second and sniffed the air, like an animal. Then he just walked into the woods, disappeared into the black. I was terrified. What was he doing? I stayed awake for, I don't know, an hour? Maybe more. I was just paralyzed. Then I heard him coming back. But it wasn't a walking sound. It was a shuffling, a dragging sound, and a wet sound. I saw him again, his silhouette in the moonlight. He was filthy, covered in mud and leaves and something dark. That smell, that coppery smell, it was overpowering. It was like a slaughterhouse. He crawled back into his tent, zipped it up. I didn't sleep. I just lay there, my heart feeling like it was going to explode out of my chest until the sun came up. The next morning, Jonah crawls out of his tent. He's clean. He's wearing a new t-shirt, fresh jeans. He's normal. He's Jonah. "Morning," he mumbled, and went to get water from the river. I must have dreamed it. I had to have dreamed it. Sleep deprivation, The weird woods, it was a nightmare. See? Matt said to me, stretching. He's cool. You're just being a dick. I just nodded. Yeah, maybe. Just a bad dream. We decided to go on a long hike that day. To Devil's Peak, a big overlook. I knew the trail. It was a 4-mile loop. We'd been hiking for an hour, and Jonah stops. This is the tourist trail, he said, his voice full of contempt. It's stupid. I know a shortcut. A shortcut? I said. There is no shortcut. This is the only trail. My grandfather, Jonah said, his eyes glittering. He showed me. A spirit path. It goes through the mountain. It's fast. Come on. He just stepped off the path into the dense undergrowth. Matt, my idiot brother, he was just enchanted by this guy. Whoa, cool, a spirit path. Come on, Rick. And he followed him. Matt, no. Get back here, I yelled. We're gonna get lost. That's not a thing. But they were gone. I had no choice. I couldn't just leave my brother. I cursed, and I plunged into the woods after them. For an hour, we were just bushwhacking. There was no path. We were scratching our arms on branches, climbing over fallen logs. This was stupid and dangerous. Jonah, I yelled. This is not a path, man. You're getting us lost. We're not lost, Jonah hissed, not looking back. We're close. And Matt, he defended him. Shut up, Rick. Just for once, can you not be in control? Just trust him. This is real exploring. And then Jonah stops. He smiles. That awful, thin smile. See? He says. He reaches into a bush and pulls out a rabbit. A rabbit caught in a simple wire snare. A snare that he must have set earlier. He knew he was bringing us here. Jonah, Matt said, his voice nervous. What are you doing? Jonah just looked at the rabbit, which was squealing and kicking. He picked up a rock, a big, sharp rock, and he methodically, just crushed its skull. He didn't just kill it, he destroyed it, and he laughed. A dry, hacking cough of a laugh. Matt looked sick. He was pale. Jonah, that's gross, man. Jonah's laugh cut off. He glared at Matt. His eyes went flat. He dropped the mess of the rabbit and wiped his hands on his pants. All that blood? And he pointed. There, he said. We were at a cliff face, and in it was a hole, a dark, narrow crevice. It looked like a grave. This is the path, Jonah said. It goes through. We go in here, and I just snapped. No, I screamed it. No, I am not going into that hole, and neither is Matt. I grabbed Matt's arm. We're leaving. We're going back to the camp. Now. Jonah turned. Slowly, he still had the rock in his hand, the bloody rock. You're weak, he whispered. His voice, it sounded different. It was raspy, like sand in his throat. You're afraid. And Matt, my brother, he shoved me. He tore his arm out of my grip. Stop ruining everything, Rick, he screamed. His face was red. I'm sick of you bossing me around. You're not my dad. Matt, I pleaded. Look at him. He's not right. He killed that rabbit. He... Go to hell, Rick, Matt shrieked. We're going with Jonah. I looked at Matt's furious face. And then I looked at Jonah's empty, smiling face. And the bloody rock. It was 2 against 1. And I was terrified. I was genuinely afraid for my life. So, I did the unthinkable. I ran. I just turned and I ran. Fine. I screamed over my shoulder. You're on your own, you idiot. I crashed through the woods. I just ran and ran, not caring about the branches hitting my face. I left him. I left my brother. I got back to the camp. I don't know how. I just collapsed by the fire pit. I was a mess. I was hyperventilating. I was sobbing, guilt and anger and fear. I paced. I waited. Hours passed. The sun started to go down. Where are they? And then the sky just opened up. A violent high-altitude thunderstorm. The wind howled. The rain was like needles. Lightning cracked open the sky every 30 seconds. I scrambled into my tent. Just my tent. Jonah's tent was still empty. I just sat there, in the dark, in my sleeping bag, paralyzed. He's okay. He's fine. They found a cave. They're waiting out the storm. He's gonna come back, and he's gonna be so pissed at me. It was pitch black. The storm was raging. And then I heard it, over the sound of the wind and the rain. A thud outside. Right outside the tent, my heart just stopped. Then, scratching. A slow scratching on the nylon fabric of the tent. Our Rick? It was Matt's voice. It was weak and scared. Rick, help me. I'm hurt. Relief. It was so powerful I almost fainted. Matt, I screamed. Oh my God, Matt. I scrambled for the zipper. I'm here, man. I'm so sorry, Rick, his voice gurgled. I'm so cold. Let me in. I froze. The gurgle. And the voice. It wasn't coming from the tent door. It was coming from above me. A massive crack of lightning lit up the entire world. And the tent illuminated. And I saw a shadow. A shadow on top of my tent. A human-shaped shadow. Crouched like a gargoyle. I looked up. Through the thin nylon fabric, right above my head, I could see the shape. The rain was plastering the fabric against its form. I left that idiot in the cave, a voice whispered. A new voice, Jonah's voice. But you, he chuckled. That hacking cough. You're the smart one, aren't you? I couldn't breathe. I couldn't scream. A thump on the top of the tent. Something heavy. It rolled down the side of the tent and hit the ground next to me. I scrambled backwards. It was Matt's hiking boot, and his foot was still in it. I screamed, a choked, strangled sound, and the thing on my tent laughed. And then the voice changed. It became a perfect imitation of Matt's voice, but not the weak one, the angry one. Stop ruining everything, Rick. Stop bossing me around. Then it was my mom's voice. A perfect copy. Ricky, honey? Are you in there? Open the door. It's me. And my dad's voice. You're in a lot of trouble, son. I was paralyzed. I just sat there, in the dark, in the storm, miles from anyone, listening to that thing sit on top of my tent, listening to it cycle through the voices of everyone I had ever loved. I knew Jonah was the monster, that he lured my brother to his death, that he murdered him in that cave, and now he was just playing with me. He didn't want to just kill me. He wanted me to suffer. He wanted me to know. I sat there all night, listening to my brother die, over and over, listening to my family call for me. When the sun finally came up, the sound stopped. I stayed in that tent for 6 more hours. I finally got the courage to unzip it. He was gone. The boot was gone. Everything was just wet. I ran. I ran all the way back to the trailhead. I didn't stop. When I got there, I told the rangers. They searched. For a week, they found nothing. No Jonah, no Matt, no cave, no blood. They think I'm crazy. They think I did something to my brother. They think I snapped and made up Jonah. But I know he's still out there, in the Gila. And sometimes at night, I get phone calls from unknown numbers. I answer it. I don't know why. And I just hear it. That dry, hacking laugh. And then Matt's voice. Hey, Rick, I'm so cold. Can you let me in? And that's all for tonight. Remember, the most terrifying monsters are the ones that look just like us. The ones who might even live right next door. If these stories serve as a good reminder to trust your instincts, then show your support and like and subscribe. Hitting that bell means you'll get a warning before the next nightmare begins. Sleep well, if you can.